Hello and welcome to the Night Sky Reader. I'm here with a story to help you relax, meditate, or gently drift to sleep. Tonight, Ikebana in the Blue Hour. Settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's begin. The black suiban waits on the table like a shallow piece of night, empty for a moment, cool under your fingers as you turn it so the longest edge faces the window. Outside, the last clear light of evening has thinned into blue hour. It comes through the glass in one quiet rectangle and lies across the tabletop, over the cloth, over the shears, over your wrist. When you pour water into the basin, the surface lifts just enough to catch that blue rectangle whole. It trembles once, steadies, and begins to hold the room. You set the shears down beside the folded towel. Their metal touches wood with a sound so small it seems to belong to the water more than to the tool. A bucket stands near your knee, beaded with condensation. When you reach in, your hand meets cool stems, leaves slick from the rinse, bark slightly rough where one branch widens and bends. You lift the maple branch first. Held against the window, it rises taller than the bowl is wide and seems, for a moment, to keep listening to the evening sky beyond the glass. Its line is not straight. There is a patient angle in it, a place where the wood changed direction months ago and never apologized. A few leaves remain, darkening now toward silhouette. You feel the old impulse, begin quickly, decide quickly, make something before the light is gone. But the room is too quiet for that kind of hurry to feel convincing. Water shows it. Your hands show it. Even the branch resists being rushed, its bend shifting in your grip as if asking to be seen from more than one side. You set the branch down on the cloth and take out the kenzan, the low metal pin frog that will hold the stems. It is heavier than it looks, brass darkened with use. You place it in the suzhous slightly off-center, a little forward, and stop. The water laps once against the ceramic wall and returns to stillness. Around it, the table is spare. The pale chrysanthemum rests in the bucket with its head above the rim, petals still gathered inward at the center. Beside it are a few lengths of sedge, fine and green, each blade bending more than it appears to when seen in a bundle. 3 materials, 3 principal lines, upward, middle, low, not symbols exactly. More like relations you can feel with your eyes before you name them. You gather them onto the cloth and let them lie separate for a few breaths. The maple branch will carry the longest reach. The chrysanthemum will answer it without imitating it. The sedge will stay near the water where shadow begins. Simply tall, measured, near. You test each piece in the air above the basin, not touching the pins yet, only moving your hand slowly through possible angles. This is where the day still clings. In the wish to solve the whole arrangement before making the first cut. In the way your eyes try to leap ahead to completion. But the materials do not reveal themselves that way. Their truths are smaller. This stem from this side, that bend at this height. The way a blade curves only after it meets air. You pick up the branch again and bring the shears to its base. Fresh green scent rises before the cut is even finished. The blades close with clean, crisp pressure through wood that is younger than it looks. A bright surface flashes at the cut end, pale and wet. You lower the branch to the kenzan. The first insertion is too upright. The branch stands like a declaration, all posture and no listening. It clears the bowl by a generous height, but it has become stiff, almost formal, and the room answers with a faint wrongness you can feel along the back of your neck. The water around the stem quivers. The blue rectangle breaks into pieces. You lift the branch out again. A few droplets run down the bark and darken the cloth. This time you turn it only slightly, respecting the bend that was already there instead of correcting it. When the cut end finds the pins again, there is a soft resistance, then the small, almost inaudible click of metal receiving wood. You press carefully, lower, steady, release. Now the line rises and leans just enough toward the window to keep a conversation with the last light, not dramatic, not theatrical, simply alive. The branch reaches upward, then turns. The highest tip does not point at the ceiling. It listens out and away. Beneath it, a broad emptiness opens inside the basin and above the water, and that emptiness feels less like lack than invitation. You step back once. Distance always tells the truth faster than thought. From here, the branch seems taller, but also lighter. The basin holds it without strain. The black ceramic makes the bark look silvery by contrast. Ripples have nearly vanished. The window reflection reforms as a thin blue field, crossed by one dark line. Your breathing has already altered, though nothing important has happened. A branch has been cut and set, yet the room has narrowed to what matters. Your shoulders drop a little. The pressure behind your forehead loosens. You are no longer trying to arrange the entire evening. You are only answering the space under one bent stem. The chrysanthemum comes next. When you lift it from the cloth, one leaf brushes your wrist and leaves a cool streak of moisture there. The bloom is pale cream in this light, almost moon-colored, though blue hour cools every warm thing it touches. You slide one thumb along the stem and remove a leaf that would sit too low and crowd the water. Another leaf stays. It is small and well-placed, not decorative, only necessary. You hold the flower beside the branch, measuring by eye. Shorter, of course, and set at another angle, not a mirror, not an echo. If the branch reaches outward and up, the chrysanthemum must enter like a quieter thought, lower and closer, making the eye travel from height to middle distance without dropping too fast. You trim the stem. The cut is easier here, a tender snap under the shears. Sap beads clear at the edge. The temptation is to place the bloom near the center and let the flower become the obvious heart of the arrangement. But when you hover it above the basin, centered, the whole composition closes too soon. The open air disappears. The branch loses its room to speak. The flower becomes an answer before the question has finished forming. So you move it aside, slightly forward, slightly lower. You angle it so the blossom turns neither fully toward you nor fully away. It occupies the middle distance where relation happens. It receives the upward reach and offers it back in another measure. The stem meets the kenzan with a gentler sound than the branch. You ease it down, then rotate it by fractions until the flower sits where it can hold its own brightness without competing. One petal catches the last blue from the window and turns almost gray. The center remains warm, dense, quietly gold. There is a point in arranging when one more degree of turn matters more than an inch of height. You find that point with your fingertips. Then you let go. Again you step back. The table smells faintly of cut green things and cool water. The chrysanthemum has altered the room more than the branch did. Before there was gesture. Now there is relation. The eye moves up the maple line, drifts across open air, settles at the flower, and pauses. Between them is space, not empty in the ordinary sense, but charged with proportion, a silence you can see. Outside, the blue deepens. Roof lines across the street flatten into soft blocks. The window is no longer an opening onto detail, but a pane of color with dusk folded behind it. In the basin, that blue becomes darker and more fluid. What the water reflects now is not just the sky, but the loss of detail itself. The lower line makes sense only after the first two are placed. Until then, it is easy to think of grasses as an accessory, something to finish the edge. But when you pick up the sedge, its thin blade cool and flexible against your knuckles, you feel at once that this is where the arrangement will either breathe or close up. You separate one blade from the bundle. It makes a faint whisper over the cloth. You trim the base close and hold it low above the waterline, testing how far it can travel from the kenzan without becoming decoration. Too long, and it becomes a flourish. Too short, and it says nothing. You cut once more. The blade recoils slightly, then settles into a softer arc. When you place it near the surface of the water, it extends the arrangement outward in a near horizontal line that makes the height above it feel earned. A second blade curves toward the quieter side of the suiban. You almost do not use it. The open side is already beautiful. Then you try it and see that the gentlest answering curve gives the stillness shape, not filling, only making the quiet side readable. The tip hovers above its own reflection, separated by a film of water and a thin darkness that might as well be depth. You reach for a third piece, then stop. The extra blade would make the arrangement feel complete in the ordinary sense, safer, more explained. It would smooth away the risk of emptiness. You hold it for a second above the basin, already knowing this. Then you set it back on the cloth. Nothing loud marks that decision. Only relief, small and physical. Your hand unclenches. The arrangement becomes more spacious by the absence of one unnecessary line. One side remains quiet, and because it remains quiet, everything else can be heard. By now the room has dimmed enough that color begins to simplify. The maple bark is nearly black against the window. The chrysanthemum gathers the last available light and keeps it close. The sedge is visible mostly by its edge. In the suiban, the water no longer reflects blue so much as shape. The branch enters the surface as a dark stroke. The flower becomes an oval with pale fringe. Below grass is a sentence written near the margin. A lamp waits on the shelf behind you. When you switch it on, the room does not brighten so much as warm along one edge. Its light arrives in a soft oval that falls across the table, touches the rim of the basin, and drifts over the water between the stems. For a moment, the cool blue in the suiban and the lamp's amber reflection occupy the same surface without mixing. Evening outside, interior night beginning within. The new light reveals only minor things to do. A droplet clings to the outside rim. You wipe it with the corner of the towel. A leaf on the chrysanthemum has collapsed a fraction, so you lift it with one finger and let it rest in a more natural angle. One sedge tip sits slightly higher than the line asks for. You lower it. The movement is so small the water barely responds. This is the hour when overworking often begins. The main decisions are already made, and the hand, unwilling to be done, goes searching for refinements. You know the feeling. It wears the face of care, but underneath is something older. The thought that if you keep touching the world, it might finally hold still for you. Tonight, the arrangement answers differently. Every extra adjustment threatens to wake it from the balance it has found. The branch has its reach. The flower has its middle poise. The grass has marked the lower quiet. What changes most now is not the placement of stems, but the light passing over them. Shadows lengthen up the wall behind the table. The branch throws an angular silhouette, softer at the edges than the branch itself. The chrysanthemum makes a rounder shadow, faintly fringed. The sedge hardly casts one at all, only a thin indication near the base where the lamp catches it. These shadows belong to this hour, doubling the lines in another register. The sounds beyond the window continue at a distance you no longer need to interpret. A car somewhere below, a brief wash of tires on damp pavement, then quiet again. Inside, the loudest sounds are still the ones nearest your hands, cloth against ceramic, the light tick of the shears being set farther back on the table, the almost imaginary shifting of water as you lean closer and then away. There is nothing left to fix without disturbing what has finally become clear. The most decisive act remaining is to stop. So you place the shears completely aside, parallel to the table edge, and let both hands rest flat on the cloth. The fabric is dry under one palm, cool and slightly damp under the other where a cut stem lay earlier. Your shoulders feel heavier now, though not tired in the sharp way of the day, more like they have remembered gravity. The muscles in your jaw release 1 degree, then another. Breath enters without instruction. Leaves and wood continue their silent work of standing where they were placed. You draw back slightly, enough to let the whole arrangement gather into one field. This is where making gives way to watching. In the darker room, the 3 lines become clearer by losing detail. The branch still rises tallest, its bend subtle and certain, holding that attentive lean toward the window even now that the blue beyond the glass has deepened toward a cooler, thinner shade. The chrysanthemum occupies the middle with quiet steadiness, its petals no longer individually counted by the eye. Near the water, the sedge makes a low sentence that leads outward and then almost disappears. The open side of the basin remains open. That quiet is part of the shape now. A necessary interval. A place where the eye rests without arriving anywhere. You had wanted, earlier, to make the arrangement feel right before the light was gone. But the light does not go all at once. It changes the meaning of each line as it leaves. It simplifies. It edits. In the suiban, the window's rectangle has faded from blue toward silver. Not bright silver, more the memory of light held on water. The lamp's reflection floats beside it, an amber oval drifting between the stems, slipping in and out of broken shapes as the surface settles after each invisible vibration in the room. Nothing about the arrangement feels conquered. That is its relief. The branch could have grown in another direction. The flower will open more by morning, or begin to loosen at the edges. The grass may relax another fraction overnight. Water will evaporate. Shadows will change. The composition is complete only in the way evening is complete, by arriving and continuing. Your attention widens without effort. First to the table where a few trimmed leaves lie in a loose green scatter near the towel. Then to the bucket, half in shadow now, the remaining stems leaning together in their dim temporary shelter. Then to the window, nearly a mirror at last, holding a faint impression of the lamp and a darker impression of you. And then outward, past the glass, where early night has gathered over the buildings and the street, and any unfinished thoughts still waiting somewhere beyond this room. They are not gone. They have simply moved farther away, the way distant sounds move away when you stop leaning toward them. Breath becomes one of the things the room is doing. In, with the cool plant scent still rising from the fresh cuts. Out, while the water keeps its thin reflective skin. In, while the branch stands without explanation. Out, while the quiet side of the basin remains untouched. The tall line reaches, the middle line answers. The low line rests near the water. One side stays empty. That is enough. More than enough. The evening has moved, without hurry, from blue to silver to the first near-black tones of night, and you have moved with it. You stay a little longer. The room darkens further around the lamp's small pool. The chrysanthemum dims until its petals are almost the color of paper seen at dusk. The maple branch becomes all line. The sedge all suggestion. The black ceramic basin disappears at the edges and survives mostly as a contour where reflected light finds the rim. You do not add another branch. You do not move the flower. You do not fill the quiet side. Night takes the room gently, the way water receives a reflection, and the suiban, still and dark on the table, keeps a final faint glimmer as if the evening has chosen, for a little while longer, to rest there with you. Thank you for spending this time with the Night Sky Reader. May your night be peaceful. Until next time, rest well.